Hello, Cancer. Welcome back to Path of Enlightenment Tarot. For those of you returning, welcome back to the channel. And for those of you who are new, welcome. I am Nicole. Cancer, the water signs, starting with you, are going to kick off this new series of videos. This is going to be for your sun, your moon, your rising. And we'll, if you feel like it applies to your Venus placement as well, then place that there too. So these videos, I wanted to do this series back in December, and life was not allowing it, plain and simple. So this is what your inner child wants you to know at this time. So this could be revolved around healing. This could be some of the healing work that you've already done. But this is really to address the inner you. So I'm going to try to shy away from other people. This is strictly for you, Cancer. And but if Spirit brings it in, then we'll address it, right? Of course, whatever the messages are. So I hope you guys have had a wonderful holiday, a good start to the new year. And thank you for your patience and sticking around with me as I needed to take a little bit of a hiatus. My energy is finally picking back up. So little bits at a time. So we're getting through it. So thank you again for all of your patience, love, and support. It is greatly appreciated. All right, Spirit, let's jump into this for Cancer for January. What does their inner child need to know? What does Cancer need to know about their inner child at this time? The first word Spirit's giving me is perseverance. You guys have really persevered through a lot of challenges. They're bringing up, especially the last 2 years. For some of you, going back to the age of 4, this could get, whatever comes out in this reading could take you clear back to the age of 4, whatever you can remember. I know there's parts of my own life that I remember things even earlier than that, and then things that, come up at a certain point, right? I forget what year or how old we are when they say we really start to remember those things. But stretch and clarity. I do feel like you're finally making some movement and gaining clarity around certain situations that could stem back to that 4. That 4 can also be foundational energy, which is that child. We get to a point in life where we forget what inspires us, what lights us up, what fires us up, what keeps us moving, because we become conditioned to circumstances and people and a way of thinking and being. But through these years, Cancer, regardless of how old you are, you've really had to persevere through some things, and it's learning to let go of the grasp that you've had on certain elements in your life, learning how to kind of like let it flow, like what comes, what goes, and no longer, the need to no longer fear the past, okay, is what Spirit is saying. So let's see what comes out for you guys. For Cancer, please. Heat. Spirit just said if there's an attempt to reconcile, you're not having it. And I'm going to say this could be past situations of people around you, an alliance. Like you're learning to rely strictly on yourself. Like if you're looking for external sources to create a space of a pledge. Spirit is saying a pledge to just you. You're realizing that pledge has to come from within. This is not about anybody else, but you learning how to strictly rely on yourself. I feel like over the years, there's been a lot of, you guys have had a lot of guidance around you. And even though, you're Cancer, right? You are the crab. There's a lot of Phoenix energy that comes in with this energy as well. I can see it here on this card and the way the wings are shaped. But it's like, it's funny because there's like a hand that comes out from the heavens that is supportive. And it's funny because it's to the neck space. So it's like the head, the heart, the shoulders. Like when you felt pressurized by situations, you felt like, the burdens to be bared were just too much. Whether you knew it or not, there was a support coming in from the other side. So most of you, if not all of you, have been guided in some capacity. I'm going to say potentially by another water sign, whether this is in form, and I'm going to say you may have had other water signs that have been by your side, Cancer, that have tried to support you in this way. For some of you, this was also about recognizing what true relationships, friendships, supportive energies meant for you. Maybe where you could have dealt with a water sign in the past, they were maybe on the lower vibrational side of things, and now you have come into a space where you're intermingling with or have created friendships or partnerships with in some form, where they truly do come in and align to bring you into your highest good. They understand the perspective in which you're operating from. They understand what that pressure is. And again, that Phoenix energy, that is the change and the transformation. It is everything being burnt to ash and then resurrecting yourself. but this is a new way of being that comes in for you in January. They're talking about death. They're talking about the transformation. You could have dealt with death. And I'm going to say this to you, and this is going to run a little deep, right? I might hit some nerves. When a death occurred, that could have been your greatest blessing. And that's going to sound pretty fucked up in some ways, right? But it was to take away the Spirit is calling it the imminent danger of a particular situation. So whether this was a physical death, or I'm also they're showing me a pulling away, where there's been a pull away of certain energies and aspects, that this was meant to release you from the imminent danger of a particular situation so that you could work on yourself. Do you understand what it is to align yourself to you rather than to others, or what it is that you feel guilty for, or what it is that you feel that you are responsible for in some sort of way? It's learning how to speak your truth. I do feel like for some of you, you're still harvesting in the throat chakra. A lot of throat chakra work needs to be done on the delivery of how you say it, or what it is that you're holding back and need to say. So it's like you're cultivating the ability to communicate effectively and culminating or nurturing, harvesting, how to effectively listen. You may also feel like Cancer over the years, from the point of childhood, ages 4 to 6 specifically, you got taught that your voice did not matter. So it taught you how to hold back. It taught you how to kind of swallow what it was that was going on and coming to the surface, that we didn't talk about it. We didn't address it. We didn't need, it was like the elephant in the room. Nobody wanted to say anything. So, and it's like, and I feel like for some of you, it felt like all eyes were on you when it came to particular situations, that you, Cancer, were the problem rather than somebody else. So this, it creates a lot of heavy heat, heavy burdens, pressure on you to feel like you are holding the weight of the world on your shoulders. So what else for Cancer here, Spirit? What else for Cancer? Productivity. For some of you could really have been dealing with maternal issues over the years as well in space. For some of you, I will say, I'm going to say this is a split 50-50. For some of you, you had the backing of a mother. For others of you, this is a mother who almost felt like they put you in the shadows. So a lot of divine feminine energy that runs through this and says, this is the way that we move. This is the way that we do things. They were upholding you to a particular standard or a way of being, a traditional belief system, that this is just how it was, right? And it's like now you're in a place of revising the way that you move. Really looking at the broken pieces, the cracks in the sidewalk, if you want to call it that it's now time to distance yourself from those ideas, those beliefs, the way you were supposed to be, for lack of better words, a productive member of society, the way you were meant, or the way that you were told you were meant to walk through a threshold, and how you were supposed to behave and align to what other people felt that you needed to do, right? So this is really coming to the forefront at this time, and it's also learning how to keep your emotions stabilized, because I feel like there are times that you are pretty grounded in them, and then there are other times where they tend to create ruckus, and it almost feels like throughout every part of the body there's like a wave whipping up and crashing. It's like the water at the shoreline of the ocean. It comes in and it crashes, and then it smooths itself out. So a lot of you could be dealing, and they're going back to July of last year, so maybe July Cancers this is having a bigger effect on, but it feels like around July you started to see certain things. For some of you, if you're older Cancers as well, having a daughter that is older, right, no longer a teenager, or even in their 20s perhaps, they're teaching you a lot about the way life moves. It's like the complete change of the way, the old energies of the way things were supposed to be or move. Talked about that 4 to 6, there comes a 6. Virgo, the Justice card. It's learning the new directional path for you. It's an expansion of the mind and your consciousness. Also about the bare vulnerability, that it's okay to step into a space that's vulnerable without feeling like you are being judged, without feeling like you are being, restricted by other people's thoughts and imaginations of how, again, you're supposed to be in their world. Again, that metamorphosis of change and then balance showing up, Justice in the Balance card. I just keep hearing from Spirit resurrecting, and I think for some of you, it's almost like you're going back and digging up the past, or there's a need through this inner child healing work that needs to take place, and need to dig up the past to get to the root of the problem, right? It's going back to the very root that created this instability in the mindset where you felt responsible for others, or you felt guilty for not moving in a direction in which they thought you should be moving at, you know, like any given time in your life. Interesting. I'm picking up on the collarbone in the body itself. You know, it's kind of like the way Spirit's bringing it is, it's like you had to bend over backwards to please. So Cancer, I mean, you guys are lovers, nurturers, right? You will take that extra mile to make others feel good, right? But it's like you can only do so much till you bend, till you break, right? And that's kind of how this feels, but I also feel like you're opening up to the bumps, the bruises. Some of you also could have been dealing with like skin issues, rosacea, things like that, psoriasis over the years of family heredity. And I feel like even if you were dealing with anything like that growing up, they could have been telling you, you know, there is no fix. Here's a pill, right? And I think that you're starting to really look at the external skin of the body on a physical plane and go, if there's a will, there's a way. So I think even health-wise, you're starting to make some changes. You're starting to address certain things. It's about your beauty, your beauty as well. Because I feel like when you look back at the past, you realize where you kind of got whipped around in particular situations and how it didn't work for you. And now finding the freedom within to make those changes. Understand this strength, and then the balance, Libra, and this one coming out in reverse. This may have been one of the biggest challenges, if not the biggest challenge in your life, Cancer, to find a way to rectify the thought pattern, the belief system with your heart's alliance, right? It's like you have to change that conditioned way of thinking. It's almost like you ever see somebody who, no matter what happens, I mean, 12:12 on the clock, it doesn't matter what happens, they're always the one to apologize. It had maybe nothing to do with them. They're like, oh, I'm sorry. Or, you know, they drop something, oh, I'm sorry. Like, everything that comes out of their mouth is, I'm sorry. And learn to stop apologizing for things that are beyond your control. It's you not always holding the guilt of situations, right? Somebody like that has been taught that everything is their fault. So their initial reaction is like almost being shunned or embarrassed and going, I'm sorry, I could have done better. I'm sorry, I could have done more. I'm sorry, I could have. If you're in that mindset, you catch yourself with I'm sorry coming out of your mouth anytime something happens, there's really a need to address where that I'm sorry comes from. And that could go back to age 6 as well, where you got taught that, you know, like there's that old saying, you know, children are to be seen and not heard. And yeah, like there's a place for our children to understand, you know, boundaries, not so much a way of being, but just a boundary of, you know, be polite, don't be disrespectful, don't interrupt people. And I personally believe that that's what that statement means. But for some people, when they say children are to be seen and not heard, it's like it teaches you that your opinions, your thoughts, your voice, your feelings don't matter. And Cancer, that's really what this feels like to me, is someone taught you that you is you, the way you feel, the way you thought, the way you perceived things. To someone else, it wasn't a valid point. It didn't matter. You were being invalidated by their way of seeing things, and that created this guilt feeling, this I'm responsible feeling. You're not responsible. But I will say, for those of you with children in general, or specifically daughters, you're showing the way. You are leading by example in some capacity. For others of you, I will also say, and Spirit's really bringing this to my attention, there could have been a split. If you have an older daughter, I would say if you're around 60 to 70 years old, I don't know why this is coming in so specifically, but it is 60-ish, maybe 55 to 70 years of age, and you have a daughter who's, you know, 30s, 40s, maybe a little older, there could have been a split off between the two of you, and they're pushing you to change. This separation is pushing you to change. because the way that you have moved, because of what you've been taught or the way you've been conditioned to believe, has stopped you from moving forward in some way. So you may see your daughter or child as toxic, or they may see you the same way, but it's a reflective mirroring energy about the inner child within that says, I need help. I need to be loved without conditions. I need to be nurtured for who I am. My voice does matter. How I feel does matter. And it's like somebody, and this might be for 10 of you, I don't know. I don't think this is for everybody. Learning that the way you've been taught and the way you've moved has taught somebody else how to move. You know, and if you don't have children, this could be someone that's just really close to you somehow, or, you know, it could be a sister or something, like a younger sibling or something to that effect, right? So, you know, your inner child is kind of screaming, to Spirit is saying, I got the chills, to be validated for who it is that you are and what it is that you do. And then you start to decipher what your belief system truly lies in and if it's been beneficial to you over the years. So let's see here, too many cards. There's that Five of Cups, guilt, regret, remorse, right? Watching things kind of fall to the wayside that seems to leave you empty, the focus on what is left rather than what it is that you have. Knight of Pentacles here, moving on and moving forward into something stable. The Knight of Wands, a lot of Knight energy here. You know, Cancer, you guys have left a trail behind you over the years of making differences in ways that I think that some people, they may see it, but they'll never recognize it. Like if you're looking for validation from somebody else on what it is you have accomplished, and that, you know, if you pushed against the grain and you did it your way and these things did work out, and somebody said to you, maybe it was your mother or your father, said, you know, that's the wrong way to go, it's never going to work, and then it's proven itself to work. Because you chose to do it differently. You chose not to relive cycles from the past and ancestral wounds, right? You're making that change that they may see that it did work. And maybe 20 years later, they're like, oh yeah, well, it did work. But they're never, if you're looking for them to acknowledge that or give you some kind of credit for that, it's never going to happen. You know, it's not about them again. It's like saying, you know, talking about forgiveness, to just forgive somebody. It's not about them, it's about you. You forgive for the sake of it releases your own soul. And it's like you're gonna have to be your own champion in the sense that you are acknowledging that you've done something different. You know, so that's the key here, is for you to realize that you've changed directions, that the things that you have accomplished has had the benefit for you and for those around you, even if some people in your world choose not to see it for what it truly is. And there's that freedom with the Knight of Wands, that free, loving, carefree, opening yourself up energy. I will also say, for those of you who feel like your heart and head are not on the same page, be cautious. As much as this particular deck, I don't mind this Knight of Wands. She's got those 4 wands. Those are the foundations. But here's the thing. Partying, getting wild, too careless, too reckless, with that heart and the head not being on the same page, to me, with this Libra imbalance in the reverse, says you have to find that balance. So if you find yourself leaning into toxic things to relieve either the heart or the head, you know, so if you're numbing so you don't have to think about things, or numbing because you don't want to feel things, there's a need to be very cautious of that, because you're kind of towing a fine line on what direction you go moving forward. Okay, I hope that makes sense for you guys. All right. 6 of Wands, though, victory and success, the productivity. And then the 5 of Cups again shows itself coming out sideways. I'm going to take that. Empress. There you are, Cancer. The lover, the nurturer, the giver of life, right? Like, there you be. I want to say to you, look at the generation before you, and then look at the generation after you. Notate the differences. If you have to get a piece of paper and you need to write it down and go, this is who my mother and my father were. This is who my grandparents were. If you want to go back that far, you can. But I think the big thing, I got the hiccups all of a sudden, is going to be to look at the generation before you, because they're really emphasizing that 3. And then you yourself, and then the generation they're following, right? And realize that maybe you feel as if there's not been a shit ton of progress that's been made. But you are like a catalyst for that change if you allow yourself to be. And I think for a lot of you, you are. I think for others of you, you tend to go back and forth in that energy of, but it's also seeking that external validation, right? And then for others of you, just not quite feeling it, all right? But here's the thing with the 6 of Wands that I'm picking up with this card, which is something I've not picked up on before. When you look out into the crowd there, you see all the hands waving, so it's like, you know, superstardom, right? Being front and center, and you've got all these people going, yay, like you did it, and this is wonderful, and you can stand up there and you can take a bow, and yay, and you've got the whole crowd out there cheering for you. And they're giving me 2 separate messages. One, the person that you think should be cheering you on is probably not out there. It makes this 5 of Cups sideways become bittersweet, right? Like you're thankful for what you do have, for those who do support you, but the one that would mean the most from, you're not getting that excitement from, you're not getting that, you know, stamp of approval from. For others of you, again, it's like if you took that crowd away, some of you may feel like the only person that's standing in a space of feeling good is you, but then you look out amongst the world around you and you're like, it's only me. And that can feel bittersweet. Like, yes, I did this, but who do I have to celebrate these victories with? Who do I have to celebrate that success with? It's like, you know, this is a really sad example, but it's the truth. I mean, there's situations like this in the world where, you know, maybe a son or a daughter lost both parents and they go off to graduate high school, or they go off to graduate college, and there's nobody there when they walk across that stage, when their name is called. And they're super proud of themselves because they beat the odds, right? They could have ended up in a gutter somewhere, but they're super proud of what they've been able to accomplish. But there is a sadness that is like, the people that I wanted there with me that should have been here are not here. That also signals abandonment wounds. It's healing that abandonment for the love that you felt like you lacked, or the support that you felt that you lacked. It's bittersweet, you know. And you know, they say, and it's the truth, we can't experience pain without love. We have to love, we have to want, we have to yearn, we have to crave a nurturing. It's our human nature, you know, our humanistic nature to crave that approval. So those things are really standing out for you guys in what it is your inner child wants you to know. You have 4-4 here. 2 4s are very important. That strength card of the Hercules. Look at this. I said it's like a catalyst for you, right? Or you could have been the catalyst. There's that exact card. Behind that is fear. For some of you, you could take that fear and the frustration, the anger, the hurt, and the pain, and use that as a catalyst. That's what keeps you motivated. That's what keeps you going. I talked about that back, I think, in December. And I forget whose reading it was. It might have been a daily, where it's like, you know, how do you channel that fear? Do you use it to make you sit on your ass, or do you use that as a way to go, let me show you how capable I truly am? All right, so I hope that's making sense for you guys. All right, additional messages for, telling me to pick up this deck first. 2 and 3. All right. Additional messages for Cancer. Any words of wisdom from the other side, Spirit, for the sign of Cancer? Ask for help and believe. I think too, even if you guys now, later on in life, have people around you that love you and support you, I think you question. It's a matter of trust, right? Water signs with trust issues, who would have thought? um, if they truly have your back, if it runs so deep the way that you love. But then it's also needing to scratch the surface of how deep you truly love, or do you love from a space of protection? That it's okay to ask for help and believe that what you ask for and what you need is going to be given to you by the divine in some capacity. But I feel like you guys have a hard time either believing in yourself or believing in others because of those past experiences. Advice for, I almost said Leo. You could be dealing with a Leo. It doesn't have to be. Choice. You know, I've said this, I think, here and there, and then when we talk about the spiritual aspects and healing those ancestral wounds, we always have a choice. I know that I've said before about the two boys, the two guys, the two adults, whose dad was an alcoholic, and the one son is a raging alcoholic, falling off the bar stool 7 nights a week, and the other son doesn't drink at all. And when they were both asked, you know, the son who drinks, why do you drink? And he says, because I watched my father do it. And the other son is, you know, who doesn't drink, well, why don't you ever drink? Well, because I watched my father do it. It's a choice to break those ancestral wounds. It's a choice to make change. You know, we may not have in our society the way that it's set up before the age of 18 to really be able to make those choices for ourselves in a lot of ways. So we may have no control over those situations. But once we become an adult and we step out into the world on our own, we then do have a say. We get to decide how we move and how we handle things after we're no longer under the thumb of somebody else. And this is about those choices, right? You have seen the good, the bad, the ugly, and it's like, okay, now I get to pick the direction in my purpose, Spirit is saying, to change this, and it's reassessing. I feel like sometimes for you guys, it is hard to go back to the past and look into it. You're afraid to jumping in is either going to get your feet burnt, or you feel like once you get into this opening that it's never going to stop either. So, but also Spirit's saying, you know, to take that leap anyhow, if you're scared of what you're going to find on the other side or deep down within, to take that plunge. All right. Other advice. It says, not today. Boundaries and hurt, avoiding conversations, not dealing, still upset. I'm going to say to you, Cancer, for some of you that could be you, but I'm going to say largely I feel like you have turned your back to a particular person or situation. Their response to this is almost like gaslighting or blaming you, that your hurts, your pain doesn't matter, because it's like they try to one-up you. You could say, I had this happen. You're like, yeah, well, let me tell you. This hurts even more for me because we were both there and this is what happened. And my pain is more than your pain. They refuse to give attention that somebody else other than them could have dealt with pain that could be immense. They're very, very caught up in their own misery. So if you're seeking accolades or empathy or understanding from somebody else tied to this situation for your inner child, know that no matter what you do, no matter what you say, no matter how many ways to Sunday you address that, there's going to be disappointment with heartbreak here, because they're never going to give you the validation that you're seeking. Deeply sad and hurt, feeling loss, grieving, and despair and breakup. You know, learning the people in our lives that are supposed to have this very important role, whether it's mother, father, grandmother, grandfather, brother, sister, or children, whatever, that we have to accept them for exactly who they are. And I think that's one of the hardest things as humans we ever deal with, is finding the acceptance. We know somebody, like, you know, we see somebody as a mother, right? So we assume that this is how they're supposed to be, or how they're supposed to nurture, or how they're supposed to love or care. Or a friend, we've seen them in this one light at one point, and then, you know, 2 years into this friendship, you see them being somebody completely different. The picture that you had of who this person was supposed to be, or the expectation you had to how they were supposed to be in your life, finding the acceptance that they're never going to be anything more than who they already are, because they're not willing to wake up to their own shit, is one of the hardest things I think we ever have to deal with. Because then we feel like we come to a crossroads with this choice, that we need to take a look at whether or not they're truly serving a purpose. And we've heard the old adage, well, that's your mom, that's your dad, that's your family, that's your whatever. it doesn't mean that they have your best intentions at heart. And sometimes you have to just walk away. And that could be the thing here, because it's like, you know, here we go, the golden mirror, narcissist, love bombing, self-absorbed, one-sided. I just said to you, they are never going to give it to you because they're so caught up in their own shit. You could have been dealing with narcissistic people over the years. You could have seen them playing out one by one. You know, it's like a family. I hate to call it a family curse because to me there are no curses. But it's like you could have lived in a household, and Spirit has given me the number 4. And it was like you were very different. You were the black sheep, right? And everybody else operated under like this. There were zombies walking around. They just went on autopilot, just doing their thing. And you're sitting back and you're watching and you're like, these are not my people. What in the hell is the matter with you all? You know, and now it's like the inner child in you is asking to be loved and cared for by people that aren't capable of loving and caring for themselves because they refuse to look at themselves. They refuse to hold themselves accountable. Poker face, taking a chance, risk options, not showing your hand, and gambling. You know, what I just heard from Spirit was there could be, you know, those particular people or a particular person in your life, you've learned how to have to maintain face with them. It's like, especially if you're dealing with a narcissist, right? They love to get a reaction out of you. They love to know what's going on in your world so they can kind of create some kind of upheaval and flip it back around to how they feel, what they want, what they need, and how you're not giving to their needs. You've learned over the years how to play the game. You had to. It's like, I'll say this, and it's going to, it is what it is, right? Like my truth, and I'm going to speak that shit this year. Dealing with somebody who had a drug addiction, and he would get so mad at me because I knew exactly what he was going to do before he did it. He'd be like, how do you know? You learn to play the game. You learn how to play the game better than they do, so you can stay one step ahead out of survival mode. It becomes that sense of survival. You learn what those demons look like. You know how they feel. You feel the energy shift, especially if you dive into your intuitive side. You know when they're tempting you, you know, and it's like you learned very strictly how to play the game so you could survive. And the thing of it is you became better at the game that they did, but the difference for you is you don't do it maliciously. And there's even a part of you, though, that sometimes it's so easy to walk into that kind of pattern where they were because that's what you know. But you are taking the higher road. You really, truly are. And it's like you see through, and this is kind of sets you up for the long term to Cancer and dealing with people, just whether it's in work or passing by or they come in for a reason in a season, whatever it is. Like, you've learned how to hold back. But also make sure that holding back, you know, with this situation, yes, by God, protect yourself, right? But then when you meet genuine people, you still reserve yourself because you're afraid of the same old thing. You must learn to trust yourself, okay? You must learn to trust yourself. All right. Spirit is, I was going to use the Sacred Rebels deck, but they're guiding me to use the Light Workers deck, so that's what we're going to go with. Like, water am I? Okay. One card to close this off for Cancer, please, for their inner child. Advice, loving messages for Cancer. Initiation by fire. You know, I said earlier, it's like putting your feet in the fire, right? Afraid you're going to get burnt. Your experience of getting burnt, beautiful card, is it not? Just gorgeous. Taught you. You had to be thrown in the fire. You have to learn from that experience. Now you're at a place, Cancer, where you can learn how to alchemize that fire, where you're able to use it for something good. You're creating that balance, right? You talked about that balance, that Libra card. This also reminds me of the Temperance. Learning to use that fire energy to heal. Learning how to use that fire energy to balance yourself out. How to dive into your intuition, how to protect yourself, how to remain loyal to you. 22, another 4, so 4, 4, 4. Those 4s are very, very heavy for you guys. Spirit just said you are an angel of divine grace. Use it for the good. Stop being fearful that everybody is out to hurt you, that everybody is out to create that muckery, right? And I just said, you could have been involved in a family of shit, right? Take a look at this. Another 6, so 6, 6. 5th ray of intellectual knowledge. And I'm going to say this to you. All these years that I've had this deck, I don't think I've ever seen this card come out. You look at that lady and all of these disgruntled, toxic, pissed off, angry faces. And I said specifically 4, right? You can specifically fully see 4 faces. 1, 2, 3, 4. Feeling like that black sheep. But the reality is you were that golden light. You were the one that was going to challenge everything, and you are. So step into that power, that knowledge, and that wisdom. Don't let that light within you go by the wayside. Don't let that be all the lessons, this initiation by fire. Don't let that be something that goes by in vain. All right? So, Cancer, I hope that you guys like this series of readings. I hope you found this insightful and helpful and that it resonated for you. If you did, like, share, subscribe, comment. It's so greatly appreciated. I'm going to open up readings maybe next week or the week after. We'll see. Starting a lot of new changes. They're slow to be implemented on my part because I've had so much happening and I needed some time for me, and still kind of do. But I'm so excited to be back on the wagon here and getting things accomplished and getting to share that with you guys. It makes me so very happy. So Cancer, that is your message. Again, like, share, subscribe, comment. Let me know how you feel about this new series of readings, and then we'll get more messages out as soon as possible to you. Sending you guys tons of love and light. Take care of yourselves. Bye.